feeling a little inspired to share a little bit about my story. And I want to give a little bit of background on how I have shifted from being an engineer to now becoming a therapist, in the event that it might help anyone else. I was reflecting a lot on my 20s, and specifically the end of my 20s and how it was such a game changer for the course of my life and now where I'm going. So here I am in my 30s, now in school to become a therapist. I'm 2 years into school, 2 years into a 5-year doctorate program to become a clinical psychologist. If you had asked my 20-year-old self what I'd be doing at 30, I don't think I would have said becoming a therapist. When I was 20, I was in undergrad studying chemical engineering, chemical and biomolecular engineering, just as nerdy as it gets. And yeah, I really was chasing prestige, focusing on a degree that would get me a high-paying job, that everyone would be impressed by. I didn't want to do engineering. That's the funny thing. I studied engineering, but I wanted to become a consultant because I specifically wanted to go abroad to Australia. Long story short, graduated as an engineer from undergrad, went off into consulting with a fancy, bougie consulting firm, and I was there for about 2 years, and that's when I got placed in Australia. And I was in Australia for 6 months, and I absolutely loved it. It was so cool being in Australia, but I didn't want to stay forever, and I decided to come back to the United States. And when I came back, I was so lost because for like 3 or 4 years, working in Australia was my dream, it was my goal, it was what I wanted to do. And I came back and I was like, okay, now what's my dream? What's my goal? I have absolutely no idea. And I've always been passionate about the environment and nature, and so I decided that I wanted to go into sustainability. So I left consulting and started at a sustainability company focused on bioprocessing, and it was really cool, really fascinating technology, really impressive leader, but I realized within just a few months of being there that the culture was super toxic, really rough. And I was like, okay, this isn't a good fit. Let me go try a different sustainability company. A different company working in bioprocessing, doing cool stuff with microalgae. It felt like the absolute Cinderella shoe, dream job that I was flabbergasted that I got it. And I was so excited. And I absolutely loved it. I was working with someone who I really admired. I really enjoyed the team. The technology was amazing. We were trying to use algae to make oil, to make more sustainable plastics, rather than using petrochemicals, which was super cool. But a few things came up during my time there. One of them being, I realized that I'm not a capitalist. I don't think I'm a capitalist. And when you're at a startup, you kind of have to be a capitalist, and you have to believe that selling more stuff is good for the planet if it's more sustainable stuff. And I realized over time that I don't think that's the case. I think that the most sustainable thing you can do is buy less stuff. But that's not going to make a startup successful. Trying to find ways to sell more sustainable stuff to more people really started to rub against my values and didn't feel good for me. And not only that, I started realizing that everyone at the company was re-traumatizing each other. Like, all the older folks had experienced so much workplace trauma that they were passing it down to the next generation. And between the first company that I was at and this company, I was like, how are we going to save the planet if we're too busy traumatizing each other? Like, that's not gonna get us anywhere. Then we're not gonna cut carbon footprints. We're not gonna save the rainforest from dying if we're just passing down our trauma from one manager to their associate to that associate's intern. Like, that's not gonna save anyone. That's not gonna help anyone. So I realized that for me, the most sustainable thing you can do is not be fooled by capitalism and materialism, which tells you that you have to buy more things to be worthy and to be loved. And the second piece was we need to support everyone's mental health so that they can do their jobs really, really well without hurting more people. And because of those two things, I started focusing and getting really interested in going into therapy. Early on when I was graduating school, I was really fascinated by doing really high impact, really large scale projects that would, affect a lot of people. And over the course of time, from 20 to 28ish, I realized, no, I don't think that's what I want to do. I actually want to work one-on-one with people. I think that's really where the change can happen. That's the grassroots approach that allows you to see change more directly. My years in consulting, I never got to see anything directly. It was large scale and high impact, but it wasn't satisfying, it wasn't gratifying, it wasn't hands-on, and it was really removed. It was really, really removed from any, connection with other people, and the people that you're trying to impact. I struggled and questioned myself, and eventually I decided to quit that job, that dream job in sustainability, and apply to schools to become a therapist. And hands down, it was the best decision I've ever made. I'm only 2 years into school, and it's been hard, but I have absolutely loved it. I've loved getting to know people. I've loved seeing into their lives and the honor of them sharing these parts of themselves, really making connections and seeing that small scale, hands-on relational impact that you can have on a person just by being there for them and listening with a lot of heart and empathy. So my Saturn return was quite bumpy. Lots of inner conflict between sticking with engineering, sticking with strategy, sticking with startups and this prestigious path versus following the call of my heart and following my values. I think that was one really important piece for me. I had an embodied feeling of what ran counter to my values, and I was feeling it all the time when I was in the startups I was at. And changing my path, becoming a therapist, has allowed me to feel more aligned and live in my own integrity and live out my values, rather than just have them separate as an idea and live my life in parallel to them. My values and my life are very much woven together. Allowing the chaos of my late 20s, Saturn's return, allowed me to follow that path, follow that call of my heart, and I'm really glad I did.